What's up, everybody? We are back on the Locker Room Podcast for episode 2. First episode is on our channel. Check it out. We are back. We're talking about a couple things for the NBA, the NFL, and the questions going forward if we're going to even be seeing these sports in the future. My name is Zach. Edwin's here with me, and we're here to talk about sports. All right. So first up on the docket, Edwin, is the possibility that the NBA is returning. Word has it that the Miami Heat might be able to start practicing next week. They might be back in the gym. That's a great sign. If we are going to have sports back, if we're going to have basketball back, obviously they're going to have to start somehow, and getting back in the gym is a good starting point. So what do you think about that? Do you think it's a good idea to continue the season, or should we just can it at this point?
If you've taken this long and you can't make a decision to continue the season or not, and you think the best decision is to just keep it going, even if it means no fans coming to the games, and you guys the teams aren't going to be bringing in any money, obviously, because no one's going to be at the games to watch them other than on TV. So if opening up the facilities is what they think is best, then it could turn out bad or good, obviously, because there could be players that haven't been tested, or they tested and they didn't have it at that time, and now they go to practice and they do have it, and then it just starts to spread all over again. And you can already see what the Utah situation did. You can see that team is kind of like, is it repairable, that relationship with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell and all those other players? So you don't want another situation like that happening. And I saw some pictures of Inter Miami, and they've been practicing, but they've been doing solos to where like one player at a time is with a trainer or a coach working on their specific things. And if you're going to do that, then I feel like the season, you're going to have teams that aren't gelling with their teammates anymore, like especially at this moment in time where the playoffs are supposed to be occurring. And if you throw them right back into the playoffs and expect that they're just going to be able to play how they were before the season or before this whole pandemic started, then I don't think that's a good idea. I think that if anything, they should just call the season a wash, and just because too many teams are gonna come up with excuses, or too many players are gonna come up with excuses, I believe, and it's just gonna be like, oh, there's gonna be an asterisk next to that championship, and you're gonna be like, was that real or not?
Yeah, definitely. If there is a season and it continues, any champion that gets crowned, it could be the Lakers, it could even be, the Knicks, hypothetically. Let's say anyone wins a championship forevermore, there will be an asterisk next to their name. So that's a good point. Obviously, it's a huge, mess up in the middle of the season here to have such a long gap. And I think that it's a detriment. It's a disadvantage for every team. But at the same time, everyone is still on a level playing field. Everyone's still having the same time away from the game, time away from their teammates. So at the end of the day, it is kind of even. It evens itself out a little bit. But I, for one, I'm a proponent of trying to bring sports back. Not only will it give us something to look forward to and something to watch while, the rest of us are still staying at home, but we've never had an NBA season just not end. We've had champions every single season, even if there were disasters or whatever else happened, even if it was the lockout. We always had champions, and even if there's an asterisk, there is something to watch, something to look forward to, and that's what sports are at the end of the day. It's there for the fans. And so, however they have to do it, whether it's testing the players every couple of weeks just to make sure everyone stays healthy and stays clean, if that's what it has to be, then so be it. I think that there should be much more widespread testing in the country as it is, but that's not necessarily a topic for this podcast. But I would love nothing more than to get a chance to see our Miami Heat in the postseason. So we never got to see what Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, we haven't gotten to see what they would do in the playoffs together. And I had a feeling that it was going to be something special. So if they can get back in the gym and get back to that chemistry and get back to the thing that they've built as a team, it would have been special to watch in the playoffs. So hopefully we can still see it.
Down to that having a set plan and being like, we got to follow this for every single game. Like you said, whether it be testing every week or even in every game, hey, beep. All right, you're safe. Let's go. Cool. You're good. And
Yeah.
that's whatever. I mean, I'm either way, but what if they want to think the safe way? Obviously, cancel the season. If they want to think about like just continuing the season and just not losing what has already been going well for them, then keep it going and just have no fans and just let everyone enjoy from their houses and let it be.
Mhm. And so, if there is hypothetically this season that does resume, there's a couple different ways it can play out, and logistics plays a lot of it. Whether it's straight to the playoffs, or if it's play a couple games, get into the playoffs, play the rest of the season, get to 82, and then get to the playoffs. Obviously, for that to happen, you'd have to start as soon as possible to get to the rest of the games before the playoffs start sometime this summer. As a fan, what would be your preference? Would you want to see the entire 82 games? Would you want to just see them jump into the playoffs to make sure you get your 7-game series? Or if time permitting, you got a couple warm-up games and then maybe 5-game series in the playoffs to kind of truncate it a little bit. What would be your preference as a fan?
I think you have to play those few little games at the end of the season because there was teams that are on the edge of those playoff seeds, and if you're like, all right, we're just starting the playoffs, and those teams that have been fighting, like New Orleans, I think they're on the edge, and the team in Sacramento, they're like right there fighting for the 8th seed. On the East, I don't really think it's that close, but like Brooklyn and those teams like that, they're right there. So if you do that and you're just like, hey, what you did is just doesn't matter anymore, then they have to have a plan for that because those teams are going to feel that, and especially for players, they're just like, we just did that for no reason, and it's just like you're not going to let us fight for that last spot. So I think that they need to play those few games and then jump into the playoffs, and whether it be instead of 7 games, like the first round be 5 or something
Mm-hmm.
like just lessen the amounts until the final. The finals can obviously be 7 because that's the finals, that's championship. You got to know
Right.
like all the way.
I think that when it comes to playing a couple games as a warm up, that would be my preference. In a perfect world, everyone gets to play the same amount of games. I think some teams have 64 games played right now. Some teams have up to like 67. So if you let hypothetically everyone play up to 70 games, meaning teams are playing 3, 4, 5 games before the playoffs begin, that would be a nice little warm up session. You give everybody a couple of games to, like you said, regain that positioning and possibly fight for that playoff spot that they've been, trying to get, like the Pelicans have. Um, but the only thing is, how do you convince teams that are out of contention to play ball with the whole risk of the pandemic looming over them? Are the Knicks players going to want to come out and play 4 to 5 meaningless games when they could be putting themselves at risk and their families at risk? Is that something that they would want to do?
I mean, players want a ball. If they want a ball, then they'll play in any. If they know it's safe and there's doctors there testing them, why not go out there and ball? Whether this pandemic or not was happening or not, the Knicks knew they weren't going to make it to the playoffs. So what's the difference with going out there knowing they're not going to make the playoffs with some virus out there, or going out there knowing that they're not going to make it with nothing out there and they're just bad anyways? So it comes up to the players. Do they really love basketball for the game, or are they just there for the money?
That's true. That's true. But at the end of the day, I think that we can both agree that we would love to see basketball back. We'd love to see our Miami Heat back on the court, and hopefully that's the case. But switching topics now, we do have some NFL news, and the moment we've all been waiting for. Tua has picked the number. I got my Tua shirt on right now. It's Fat Tua's Day.
Sold out. They're
Fat
sold
Tua's Day.
out.
Shout out to 5 Reasons Sports Network for the T-shirt. But Tua's number 1 jersey is number 1 and number 2 in highest selling jerseys right now.
Agree.
I mean, they're just flying off the racks at this point, and they're outselling Brady, who has been the king of jersey sales the last 20 years. I mean, what do you think about the number 1? I was surprised, to be honest with you. Out of all the numbers, I was surprised he took 1.
I was a little shocked. I thought that he was gonna go with, well, obviously he can't take 3, so he can be the next D Wade of Miami because Rosen's there. But I was hoping for number 10, or I don't even know if 7 was available. But I liked number 10 on him because I saw a couple images rendered with that, and it looked like a quarterback. But number 1, it just you don't really see many quarterbacks with the number 1. I think the last great one was Warren Moon, and right now the only one in the NFL is Kyler Murray, I believe, with number 1, and now Tua. But number 1, I feel like that's a punter or TD who now has to change his number. What's TD gonna be?
He was number 1.
It's
I
gonna be
mean,
a
maybe he
question
could be
mark. He's
10.
gonna be like, oh, he's gonna be like, I
He
don't
could
know
be
what
double
number I'm gonna
zero.
be. Oh yeah, it double zero. I don't even like the last time we ever had a number 1. I don't even know. I don't even know if we had TD out there.
TD was there because we've had a couple punters and kickers be number 1, and last one was a couple years ago. So TD was definitely there. I guess he could just rock the Tua jersey. I wouldn't mind. But yeah, no, I was surprised too. The number 1 looks like a punter number to me, and I think that Cam Newton rocks it. And he's a big dude, so number 1 doesn't look that weird on him. But I feel like Tua being such a small guy, 1 is gonna look tiny. 1's gonna make him look small.
Name and his long name, and then you just see boop, 1.
Yeah, exactly. So I felt like 10 would have been good. I thought 5 looked good. I thought 15 or anything but 1. 1 is a stick, but I think he'll rock it. But another bit of NFL news: the NFL schedule is released, and the Dolphins have a pretty tough schedule. Actually, let's just take a look at it. So here we see the Dolphins schedule. Couple big names, couple big teams here. They do have one of the strongest strength of schedules in the NFL. I think it was number 3, based on last year's record. How do you think about the schedule played out for the Dolphins? Anything noteworthy?
Where the NFL offices come up with these ideas where they say, hey, this team was just a number 5 pick in the draft. Let's give them the 3rd hardest schedule. But I think the big games that pop up here are obviously Kansas City, Super Bowl defending champions. Whether we can slow them down in any way at all, being Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. And then you also have San Francisco, who also just played in the Super Bowl. So we have 2 of the Super Bowl playing teams that we have to face this year in San Francisco, and then at least the Kansas City one is at home. But I think for the most part, our schedule isn't like crazy. I see that obviously a lot of the teams were over 500 last year, but a lot of the teams have also changed roster wise. The Patriots having
Right.
lost Tom Brady, they're arguably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game.
I mean, the Patriots definitely played into our strength of schedule. Their record last year is kind of a heavy weight on that strength of schedule, making it look like our strength of schedule is a lot tougher than it actually is when we have 2 games against the Patriots with Jared Stidham. Yeah. So that definitely is not as big of a deal as you would have thought. But I think that all the divisions are pretty close in the strength of schedule. I think all the AFC East were all in the top 5 or 6 in strength of schedule. So I'm not too worried about it. We're probably going to have, obviously we play a lot of similar teams as the Jets and the Patriots and the Bills. So it'll be fair between the divisions. But it's interesting to see what the differences are between the Dolphins and maybe other wild card contenders in the AFC, where they might have a leg up on the Dolphins if the Dolphins theoretically got anywhere close to the playoffs. So that would be interesting to see as well. What's the most excited you are for a game this year?
Plays, I would have to say Week 13 versus the Bengals to see
You read my mind.
the number 1 versus what could have been the number 1 if he had stayed healthy. And I'm glad that he wasn't, actually, because now he fell into our lap and he's going to lead us to the future. But if he plays Week 13, I might have to fly down from New York to pay a visit to that stadium, even if I'm sitting 10 yards away from everybody for social distancing. I will watch Tua versus Joe Burrow.
I think that is one of the kind of underrated matchups of the year. You have the two top quarterbacks from the draft. Like you said, two guys that could have been the number one overall pick if health was not an issue. And I think after 12 games, if Tua's even starting at that point, that would be enough time for us to give him a chance to become acclimated, and him and Burrow would be able to get their feet under them as NFL quarterbacks. Week 13 could be a special game to watch, so that is exciting. And then, like you said, we do have the Super Bowl contenders on our schedule, but other than them, and other than, I guess you could throw the Seahawks in there as other serious contenders from last year that remain contenders this year, it is not a crazy schedule. You have the Jaguars, you have the Broncos, which have been mediocre the last couple seasons. The Cardinals, who knows how good they're going to be this year, probably improving from last year, but you never really know. The Jets, and then I guess the toughest opponent, other than the three that I mentioned, the three tough ones, would be the Bills. And that's not that strong of a team to have as one of the tough ones on your schedule. But all that being said, Buffalo on January 3rd is going to be cold as hell. That might be a game you can go to if you're in the New York area.
Right before I head back down to Florida, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. And you can freeze your ass off for the Dolphins and Tua.
Man, that'd be insane. And then to watch us, hopefully, just imagining that being the game to clinch the playoffs or the wild card or something, or to take the division over Buffalo, because I know the Jets aren't going to be contending with us or anything. So
probably not.
I hope we're in contention this year. And I feel like with this schedule, other than those few teams, with how we played last year towards the end, if we play like that and with our newly added weapons on offense and defense, I think we can be up there and possibly fight for a wild card spot, even if Tua doesn't play with Ryan Fitzpatrick, because Ryan Fitzpatrick's still able to sling the ball and obviously get it to our number one weapon, Devontae, and now we have Preston Williams coming back, and so we have some firepower this year, and we should be able to make some noise.
Yeah, throw out a record. What's your estimation?
I would say I'll give us 7 or 8 wins. 7 or 8 wins. I think that's possible. Taking I think we could take both from New England. The one being in New England a little bit tougher, obviously, even with their team losing Tom Brady, but I think we can still manage to get 7 or 8 wins this year, because there's still those teams that are on our schedule that we know we can beat, and we've beaten before. Even last year, we just beat most of these teams with our depleted roster.
Yeah, a little bit more optimistic than me. I think, being realistic here, obviously we have those 3 guaranteed losses in Seattle, San Francisco, and Kansas City. Obviously you don't know for a fact that they're going to be losses, but they're probably going to be losses. So if you have those 3 as the losses, you have 13 other games. If you split them in half, say you win half, you lose half, because we're still an up-and-coming team, you end up with 6 or 7 wins. So I think that's the Dolphins' sweet spot next year, a little bit improved from the previous year. We'll see how they play. But I will say that if everything starts rolling like we hope it does, if that defense shows up and becomes as strong as it looks like it can be, because there's no holes in that defense right now. Every position has depth behind it. The defensive line, the linebackers, the secondary with 2 Pro Bowlers on the outside. If that defense can step up and be what it has the potential to be, we could sneak into the wild card spot. Who knows? Get up to 9 wins, something like that, and we'll see. You never know. That's why they play the game. Another game, I just realized that we played the Chargers, the Tua versus Herbert game. If they're both starting,
we have to face 2 of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft.
which is all right. I'd rather play them this year than maybe 3 years down the road when they're, Pro Bowlers. So we'll see how that all plays out. But that would be another interesting one if obviously they're both starters.
I wonder what would happen.
Plays.
Like if Fitzpatrick got hurt, would they and they knew Tua was healthy, would they go to Rosen or would they play Tua?
I think that's the easiest answer out of the entire quarterback question. If Tua is healthy and Fitzpatrick gets hurt, Tua is the quarterback. That's it. You've
what
got
do you have Rosen for?
Rosen is your insurance quarterback.
Why not start if you know that this season doesn't matter about winning? Why not start Rosen? If you look at the new O-line, all this, and see what he's capable of, and then you use him as trade bait.
Well, that was the same question as last year. If winning didn't matter,
we had no O-line. We had no O-line. He was going to get rocked.
But even still, honestly, Rosen did not play bad last year. Rosen,
he didn't. Our receivers dropped the ball.
I mean, he did have
Dallas,
a ton of
Devontae. He could have beat Dallas. He could have beat Dallas.
Yeah.
He could have. He didn't play against Pittsburgh. We should have been a playoff team last year. This is bullshit.
Still got Tua.
Washington, Pittsburgh, Dallas. That was 8 wins. That's 8 wins right there. Just those 3. 8 wins with nothing. With nothing.
And I'm pretty sure there was a playoff team with 9 wins last year.
hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, didn't Tennessee get in with 8?
They might have. I thought that the lowest wins was the NFC East, Philly. Look at that.
Tennessee 9.
9 wins.
Who was the worst?
Philly made him with 9 wins.
Yeah, the lowest was 9.
Philly, and Tennessee. So yeah, but still, I mean, if it was a couple of different bounces last year, they could have snuck. Right into the playoffs. But my thing is, if winning wasn't a big deal last year, they would have played Rosen a lot more. You see what you get in your young quarterback, and you know what you have. If he balled out, then maybe you don't need Tua, because Rosen was a top 10 pick a couple of years ago. But the fact that the coach pulled him, it tells you that he didn't like Rosen as his starting quarterback. There were rumblings that he wasn't a leader or he wasn't the motivator that he wants that quarterback, and that's why Fitzpatrick started all those games. And look what happened. Fitzpatrick won 5 out of the last 9 games.
Stupid play against Washington.
So I honestly think Rosen is your insurance quarterback. He's there as the backup if Tua is not healthy and Fitzpatrick gets hurt. If everybody's healthy, there's no limitations, and Fitzpatrick goes down, Tua's the guy. You drafted him high. You've been wanting him for years now. Dolphins fans and Dolphins front office, you're going to put him out there and you're going to see what you got.
You just keep him as a backup to Tua.
You could keep him as a backup, or you can, I don't know, ship him off to New England. Give them a quarterback
and destroy us.
No, I mean, we've seen Rosen. He was good last year when he played. He was not Tom Brady last year when he played. So I think if you give them Josh Rosen, you could get back maybe the second-round pick that you gave up for him, or you can get back a stud offensive lineman, Thuney, however you say his name, the guy that they've been,
give us Stephon Gilmore.
And just have just a loaded defensive back room.
Entire all corners.
No one's getting open.
Nope. No one.
Quarterback has 10 minutes and no one's open. All right, guys. So thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Locker Room Talk podcast. We appreciate you guys. Stick with us. We're going to have more content coming out, hopefully once a week or so.
Hopefully you guys can join us every week as we get more used to posting and video editing, because we're with it. But
bear with us. Appreciate your time. You don't got to go home. You got to get the hell out of here. Take it easy, guys. Be breezy.